You know, some person posted a video that said this.
I'm confident that this tier list will be the most updated version you can find, not only because you can tell by this video's release date, but also because Gumi will never be adding another unit to this list again.
And what did the developers do later? They updated it. So, think about it. Regardless, the new update promises that every 5-star from this point forward will be added to the pool. You know, like they originally planned until they said, nah, we're not doing that anymore. So with that, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, who should I select with my tickets? Let's take a look at the new list. As you can see, there are a lot more units now. Of course, the prisms are still available for 8 tickets each. Now, I am aware that this video can go out of date, much like the units that are featured in this video. As such, I'm going to rank these units according to their mileage, rather than their current ranking than someone else might suggest. Alright, let's begin. Mastermind's on. Okay, so a few things. First off, this guy's incredible. Not because he himself is a strong unit, no. His strength lies in his abilities. He can copy most types of active buffs from an ally or enemy and apply it to himself. This would already have made for an interesting unit, given the plethora of chaining families that Zaun's a part of, but to top it all off, he has a cooldown ability that lets him share the buffs to the rest of your team. This can let you create some incredibly tilted teams designed to directly counter a specific trial. Now, Mastermind Zaun isn't perfect. First off, a lot of his viability depends on the player themselves. If you want to copy and spread a specific buff, you have to have a unit that can apply it in the first place. This means if you want one of Flame of Rebirth Jake's killer buff, you have to get Flame of Rebirth Jake first. Second, given the type of content we receive nowadays, there's not much use for Mastermind Zaun outside of clearing challenges extremely fast. After all, without his cooldown ability, he mostly serves as a chaining partner, and that's a role that can be given to other stronger characters. But this is mitigated by a new mechanic the developers introduced, the break bar. Mastermind Zaun happens to be excellent for whittling that thing down, so he still has some use after he's spread the necessary buffs. Now I'm going to change this up. I'll be ranking the next level by unit rows, and then I'll go into each row a bit further. Mastermind Zaun happened to be an exception. While you could say he's a supporter, the fact remains that no other supporter possesses a niche that's remotely similar to his. Alright, first off, the row that I'll recommend the most are tanks. And not just any tanks, but magical tanks. While physical tanks can be important in certain trials, it just so happens that Final Fantasy Brave Exvius tends to give us content that requires magical tanks far more often. Tanks are important as they're units designed to protect your team. While you can avoid using them by building each individual unit with a specific defensive setup, that's really impractical. Paladin Ciso and Sacred Shield Charlotte are the two magical tanks that have been used for an incredibly long period of time. While Paladin Ciso offers more utility, Sacred Shield Charlotte has a much more grand-standing position in the future. She has the capability to be turned into a Neo-Vision, and I highly doubt that Paladin Ciso will get the same treatment. After all, look at the other main characters that got a Neo-Vision: Cloud, Rain, and Furion. All of them are different units, separate from their previous 7-star forms. Of course, that also means that Neo-Vision Ciso might be the most broken magic tank Dark Knight combo if he's released, but right now I'm just talking about the 5-star select tickets. Honorable mentions? To be honest, Vossler is on about the same level as the other two as a magic tank, but given his lack of popularity, I doubt that he's going to improve greatly in the future. Next, I recommend that players pick up a healer. Ideally, you choose someone that you won't have to replace for a long time. For instance, I've used Warrior of Light Lena ever since she was released, and never felt the need to replace her. Of course, there are alternatives. Volca may lack Lena's ability to spam white magic, but she has the ability to provide some team mitigation. Dr. Aiden is another top-tier choice, and he possesses the ability to provide barriers. Kamiya is a good future healer who can steal negative effects from allies, like breaks or imperos, but the fact that she can only do so for one ally at a time is a bit of a disappointment. Regardless, remember that team building in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius can be a delicate balance act. Healers are just one part of the team, and abilities that they lack can be supplemented by other characters. If you want to talk Neo-Visions, then Lotus Mage Fina will be getting some incredible boosts with her Brave Shift, like granting high elemental resistances and the ability to cure the zombie ailment. After that would be a Breaker, someone who can lower the enemy's stats. This part's a bit more tricky, as the best breaker can easily be replaced by someone with a higher numerical percentage break. Regardless, as of this video's release, the highest breaks belong to Seeker of Freedom Vaughn and Healing Avatar Lid, both who possess 85% breaks. Vaughn can also lower the enemy's fire and wind resistance by a great margin, and can grant your entire team the ability to dodge a single attack, while Lid can also support your healer and can grant a chaining move to half your team. If we want to think about Neovisions, then Lauren will be getting a massive upgrade, and so will Summer Fina and Lid. Supporters are, frankly, difficult to talk about. They're either someone you build an entire team around for a specialized trial, or someone who can use abilities that your current team lacks. The most important things people tend to look for from outside supporters are specific abilities that other units may not have access to. Take, for example, Lunafreya's Aquatic Killer buff, along with every other thing she's capable of providing. Poppy's an excellent unit that we were supposed to get a while ago, but even if she were to be released as of this video's release date, she'd still be an incredible supporter. Most of the recent supporters can provide excellent general buffs anyways. As such, you're better off prioritizing the previous rows first. And while I do say that it's difficult to recommend a single specific supporter, it's even harder to recommend a specific damage dealer. After all, these guys practically have a shelf life of 2 weeks at best, before a newer, better unit comes along. Well, regardless, as of this video's release, the strongest unit by far is the regular Tifa, solely because she can turn into a Neovision unit. That's definitely going to change eventually though, so make sure to look at this video's release date. So what to do? At this point, the best way to get the most mileage is to summon a unit with a great amount of longevity. Longevity is decided on a unit's strength and the relative viability. Let's look at Umbro Dragon Darkfina. Her damage output upon her release far surpassed that of other meta damage dealers at the time. However, Angel of Death Kuja was released within the next 3 banners and quickly blew her out of the water. While it is difficult to perfectly predict the future, we do have the ability to look at the units that the Japanese version of the game gets. This actually lets me bring up an interesting point concerning the Japanese version of the game. Since it's ahead of the global version of the game, we do have the ability to see the future. Some of the best units there as of this video's release are 7-star units here. It's interesting to see that the Gacha Neovision units don't outright eclipse the old 7 stars, which seems kind of counterintuitive to the developers' goal of making more profit. Yet, at the same time, you have to realize that the newest 7 stars aren't making much of an impact. Take the most recent 7-star character, Barrett, for example. He's powerful, but doesn't bring anything new to the table, and it's practically acknowledged that he exists to be power crept eventually. With this kind of logic, I'm pretty confident that the 5-star select summon tickets will mostly be used to get duplicates of a unit to empower their Neovision forms. But if you're lacking in the unit department and want to grab some new units, I think it's best to follow this guide. Get Mastermind Zahn, due to his incredible specific abilities that can benefit off of the other units that you have. Grab a top tier magic tank, bring along a healer that you won't have to replace anytime soon, and take a look at the future units in the Japanese version to see if these units have excellent longevity. Oh yeah, and try not to forget that we have global exclusive units. We're probably not going to get them in the 5-star select summon pool, but if Yoshikiri ends up being an excellent damage dealer, there's not much reason to grab someone that will eventually be replaced. Of course, if you don't plan to spend any lapis on him at all, I suppose there's no need to worry over that. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment below on the units that you're looking out for, and if you think they'll eventually block us from selecting duplicate units for Neovisions. I hope they wouldn't go and do something like that, but you have to realize that they have pulled something like this before.